In 2001, 3 rookies came into Formula One. They all had the same dream, to win the championship. But for years, the legendary Michael Schumacher has been dominating the scene. At that moment, all they could think about was how to beat Schumacher. But trust me, the Red Baron surely had no intention of giving up at the peak of his career. Could the newcomers be strong enough to defeat the best driver in the world? Formula One is a team sport. The team's responsibility is to create a car that can challenge for the win. And as you can see from the photo, the only one who had it was Juan Pablo Montoya. He made it clear from his first races in Formula One that he wanted to achieve big results. He aggressively overtook Michael Schumacher at the start of the race in Brazil and took the lead.
This is what we were promised when Montoya came into Formula One.
Many considered that moment to be the start of a new era. Montoya kept the lead comfortably, but halfway through the race,
It's Montoya! Montoya's out of the motor race!
Verstappen crashed into Montoya's car and ended his race. No, not him. Then at the German Grand Prix, Montoya took pole. Unfortunately, he failed to convert it into a victory. Finally, the Colombian managed to win his first race at the Italian Grand Prix at the end of the season. Despite Juan's success, Michael kept the title. What about the other drivers? Kimi Raikkonen had a strong debut season for Sauber. He scored 4 points in 8 top 8 finishes. No wonder Kimi got an offer from McLaren in 2002, a team that held the last championship before the start of the Ferrari domination era. Fernando Alonso made his debut for Minardi with a non-competitive car. In 2002, the Spaniard moved to Renault as a test driver. Be careful, because it was a former team of Michael Schumacher, Benetton, which was bought by the French company. Let's talk about Renault. Flavio Briatore came back with the team as their boss. He realized that a victory requires a strong team. In the first year, Flavio acted decisively. The new management merged the French Viry-Châtillon division, which built engines, and the English Enstone division, which produced chassis. This created a strong technical team that worked seamlessly together. The result of their work was the Renault P202. In this car, Jarno Trulli and Jenson Button managed to finish the season in 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. You'll probably agree that it was a good result for the debut season, especially when Ferrari was so dominant in the season. Schumacher won the title in a record-breaking 11 races. He became the fastest driver to finish the championship. Yet Briatore noticed one drawback: the team lacked a leader. He put a bet on the young Alonso and gave him a full-time seat for the 2003 season. Montoya and Raikkonen were already in great shape. Finally, these drivers have a chance to compete on an equal level. But can they beat Schumacher? The season started with a fierce struggle. In the first 2 races, Michael was not on the podium. Round 3 in Brazil turned out to be insane. The reason was that the FIA stepped in. They introduced a new rule allowing only one type of wet tire. That day, heavy rain hit the track, so Michelin customers got the full wet tires and prepared for the worst. Bridgestone brought intermediate tires that weekend. It was a real suicide mission. Schumacher confirmed this during the race.
I think they're about to get a bit more. There's
Schumacher's on. Michael Schumacher has crashed. Sorry, Louise, but as Martin spotted, Michael Schumacher's gone.
The Red Baron crashed into a barrier and almost hit a tractor. This incident could have ended his career. As a result, he did not get on the podium again. Fernando Alonso was also out of luck.
Fisichella passed Raikkonen. Oh, nasty.
He ran into the wreckage of Weber's Jaguar at full speed. This led to a massive crash into a tire barrier. Fernando was not seriously injured but sat down on the ground to take a breath. After this incident, the race was terminated. The victory went to Kimi Raikkonen. Later, the victory was handed to Giancarlo Fisichella. Why? You can watch the details of this race on my channel. But don't forget that we're dealing with Schumacher, who never gives up. He struck hard and won the next 3 races. Finally, Michael is back in the championship fight. Schumacher won the San Marino Grand Prix when he lost his mother. Then the Austrian Grand Prix when his car caught fire during a pit stop. What happened next? It seemed that Ferrari was gaining momentum. However, Kimi Raikkonen remained the championship leader. The fact that Schumacher won only one race out of the next 7 races, the Canadian Grand Prix, added even more confidence in his victory. The main reason was the heat wave that swept across Europe. Michelin tires seemed to work better in hot conditions. Michael's worst result was in Hungary. He took 8th place and received only 1 point. Meanwhile, the young Fernando Alonso dominated from pole to flag, securing his first Formula One victory. Raikkonen finished 2nd, and Montoya was 3rd. It was very symbolic when drivers 10 years younger than the rest of the field were showing their dominance. And not only in the race, but also in the championship. The championship title remained split between Schumacher with 72 points, Juan Pablo Montoya with 71 points, and Kimi Raikkonen with 70 points. The next 3 races promised to be damn interesting. The tire war between Bridgestone and Michelin continued. The Japanese claimed that it was expanding during the race beyond the allowed limit. This gave the car more grip. As soon as Ferrari collected enough evidence, they immediately complained to the FIA. As a result of the investigation, the FIA banned current Michelin tires, and the company had 3 weeks to design and manufacture new tires. It destabilized the main competitors McLaren and Williams. That's why Ferrari easily won the last 3 races of the season. It was a sad ending that killed the whole epic struggle between the young drivers.
But we were just not quick enough this year to win the title, and at least we didn't lose for bad driver.
Schumacher became a 6-time world champion, which was never done before. The battle continues. After a thrilling 2003 season, everyone expected more close fighting in 2004. The Renault team, which had realized its weaknesses, seemed to be the most likely to win. Their problem was a unique wide rectangular engine. The team created the engine to shift the center of gravity and, as a result, significantly improve handling. Unfortunately, this innovation did not work because the motor had more weight and reliability issues. This forced the engineers to return to the standard dimensions. Okay, but Ferrari had other plans. The season started with a big advantage for the red cars. Only Renault was able to stay relatively close to the red cars during the race. It all ended with another championship trophy for Michael Schumacher with Ferrari. What about Alonso? He finished 3 times on the podium, and Jarno Trulli won the Monaco Grand Prix. However, at the end of the season, their main rivals, bar Honda, looked better. That eventually dropped the French team to 3rd place. There was progress, but Renault came back to Formula One with only one goal in mind: to win the championship. 3 seasons is more than enough time for a team to get used to a new place. So in 2005, the time finally came. The Renault R25 learned from all the mistakes of the previous cars. And even more, they had 2 uniquenesses. Unlike their competitors, the French developed a unique 6-speed gearbox, when everyone else had 7. Another absolute innovation was the mass damper. It gave an advantage when cornering and attacking curbs. Let me explain this with some footage from the game. You can see how smoothly the Renault car moves compared to the Ferrari. This innovation was crucial after the new FIA rule that nearly killed Formula One in America. Why? Because it meant that only one set of tires could be used. But why in America?
This is fucking crazy.
We'll tell you more about this madness later. Renault's superiority was proven at the first Australian Grand Prix. Pole position was taken by Fernando Alonso's partner, Giancarlo Fisichella. Due to the onset of rain, Schumacher was forced to start 19th. And this was just the beginning of misfortune for the Red Baron. He collided with Nick Heidfeld.
Michael Schumacher is out of the Grand Prix.
Fisichella confidently led the race to victory. Fernando Alonso finished 3rd behind the sole Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello. Renault's debut went splendidly. They showed Ferrari that they were ready to fight for the championship. At the next race, Alonso dominated at such a pace that no one would expect from a 23-year-old. He secures pole position and confidently clinches victory.
You are indeed number one.
Fernando became the leader of the championship. Michael Schumacher finishes only 7th, but Ferrari knew how to change the situation. The team was preparing a big surprise for the next Grand Prix. Many fans believe that Renault's success was linked to the fact that Ferrari didn't have a new car. You see, Scuderia couldn't introduce a new model due to the new regulations. Therefore, in the first 2 races, the drivers competed in modified cars from the previous year. The new F2005 car was supposed to debut during the Bahrain Grand Prix. It was a moment of truth. Scuderia fans hoped the Ferrari would finally outperform the French upstarts. Would they succeed? I'll tell you in a minute. Because at the Bahrain Grand Prix, there was a more significant issue that affected everyone. Imagine having to control a racing car. Every second demands physical endurance. But another element was added: incredible heat. The air temperature in the second half of the day reached 42.6 degrees Celsius. This broke previous records, making the race the hottest in history. So not only did you have to control the car, but you also had to endure hellish conditions. What about Ferrari? Unfortunately for them, the situation worsened. Schumacher not only couldn't give Alonso a tough competition, but was forced to retire prematurely due to mechanical issues. Something that hadn't happened to Ferrari since 2001. Such a humiliating failure surely promised retaliation. Ferrari approached the next race in San Marino very frustrated. It's funny, but Schumacher got stuck in 14th place after qualifying. It seemed like he would never win again. However, don't be quick to think that. When the green light lit up, the legendary battle began.
This is incredible. This is just remarkable. Fernando Alonso, who started from the front row, is desperately trying to hold off the Ferrari of 7-time world champion Michael Schumacher, who started back on row 7. And here he is, all over the back of his young rival.
Alonso won the race in front of Schumacher in a remarkable way. His engine was turned down due to technical issues. He managed to keep the faster Ferrari of Michael Schumacher behind for the last 13 laps and clinched a historical victory everyone would remember and talk about for decades. The Ferrari strategy was to make more pit stops and win through speed. However, the new rule, which allowed drivers to use only one set of tires for the entire race, has deprived them of such an advantage. Therefore, the race in Imola was a turning point in the season. The entire Formula One community believed in Renault and Fernando Alonso that they would break Ferrari's era of dominance. That seemed to be more and more likely when Schumacher took 8th place on the starting grid at the next Spanish Grand Prix. But suddenly, Fernando's home party was spoiled. Pole position was taken by a driver everyone had forgotten about. The McLaren team had not won yet in this season, but it concealed great potential. The leader of the team was the young Kimi Raikkonen. He had already made a name for himself in this season, securing several podium finishes and even pole position at the San Marino Grand Prix. The main obstacle on the path to victory was the unreliability of the McLaren car, forcing its drivers to retire prematurely. But when McLaren was on the track, competing with them was extremely challenging. Finally, the long-awaited dream of the newcomers has come true. They have a chance to beat Schumacher. But who will become the champion? After all, Kimi wins the Spanish Grand Prix, and that was only the beginning of Alonso's failures. At the next weekend in Monaco, Raikkonen demonstrated the best qualifying performance. Even Flavio Briatore applauds him. During the race, Kimi builds a colossal lead of 30 seconds over 15 laps. For the first time in the season, Renault failed to make it to the podium. At the European Grand Prix, the Finn confidently led the race. However, he made a mistake on the brakes, receiving a blister on the tire that worsened with each lap. Unfortunately for him, on the last lap, the suspension's condition became critical due to constant vibrations. It simply couldn't withstand it and broke.
Oh, there it goes. It's off. It's gone. Wow, the legend broke. Oh, my God, lost lap.
Fernando Alonso secured victory simply because Kimi's technical issues let him down. However, the Renault team did not have any luck in Montreal. First, Alonso's teammate gets off due to technical problems. A few laps later, Fernando hits the wall. This leads to his first retirement of the season. Raikkonen crosses the finish line first. This victory gives him a new chance in the championship fight. He once again emphasized that his McLaren had excellent speed, but lacked reliability in general. The problem was another rule in 2005. The engine had to last for 2 races. For each engine change, drivers received a penalty of 10 grid positions. This often forced Kimi to start from the back of the grid.
It's just unfortunate that it always happens to me.
But if reliability issues were a problem for McLaren, the tire situation concerned everyone. The United States Grand Prix proved just how absurd the rule about using one set of tires was. On the day of the race, everything was as usual. Everyone started on schedule, but suddenly, on the formation lap, the Michelin customers returned to the pits.
You know our plan is for the start. Straight in the pits, please, mate.
There was a real panic. Only 6 cars lined up on the grid. But why? Click on the video about the US Grand Prix to find out the details.
The strangest race ever, and it gets underway now!
As you can imagine, the race was damn boring. It's evident that the fans were furious. In protest, they were throwing beer and water onto the track. The race had only one notable incident between the 2 Ferraris, when Michael Schumacher cut off Rubens Barrichello. The radio immediately buzzed with reactions.
Please, we'll bring 2 cars to finish.
Unsurprisingly, Michael Schumacher emerged victorious. He secured his first win of the season. Barrichello finished second, and for Thiago Monteiro, it was his first and only podium in his entire career. When Formula One made its return to Europe, Michelin faced a lot of pressure. The race in France was a home race not only for them, but for Renault as well. So they really needed to win in order to regain their reputation after the race in the United States. So during the race, Alonso takes the lead and goes on to win. The Renault team once again proves that it is focused on winning the championship. But the next Grand Prix will be held in McLaren's territory, and the British were forced to respond. If earlier, Alonso was attacked by only one McLaren, today there were 2. Finally, the third participant of the photo, Juan Pablo Montoya, woke up. The Colombian could not manage to transform good speed into good results. For example, at the beginning of the season, he got injured while playing tennis. Because of it, Juan missed 2 races. In Canada, the Colombian could have won, but he got a strange black flag because he ignored red lights at the end of the pit lane. But at Silverstone, the conditions were perfect for Montoya. Kimi Raikkonen once again received a penalty for changing the engine. Fernando Alonso did not want to take any risks, so he limited himself to minimizing losses. No wonder Iceman managed to make a comeback. Finally, 2 McLaren drivers on the podium. It seemed like the perfect moment to continue the fight for the title. But what happened at the German Grand Prix characterized the British team's season. Juan Pablo Montoya fought for pole in qualifying. However, he made a mistake and crashed his car. Kimi Raikkonen once again leads the race and once again fails to finish due to technical problems.
Oh, I don't believe it! Kimi Raikkonen!
As a result, Fernando Alonso wins again. This gives him a huge advantage in the driver's standings. The difference between Raikkonen and Alonso was 36 points. Let me remind you that the point distribution system was completely different than nowadays. That's why it seemed like an abyss at the time. All Alonso had to do was optimize his strategy. 5 races later in Brazil, he won the championship ahead of schedule. Fernando became the youngest champion in the history of Formula One at that time. He officially managed to break the era of Ferrari's dominance. But the Scuderia was well aware that they had lost the battle, but not the war, especially when the next season would be the last in Michael Schumacher's career. That's why Ferrari wanted revenge. So believe me, along with Schumacher, Ferrari is not ready to give up. These words were confirmed at the first Grand Prix of the season in Bahrain. Michael Schumacher clinched pole position, and his new teammate, young Felipe Massa, came to set the second fastest time. However, pole position did not guarantee victory.
Alonso is attacking Massa. He makes him push to one side. Massa's weaved twice now. He can't do that again.
At the start, Fernando Alonso immediately overtook Jenson Button. Later, he effectively dealt with Felipe Massa, and with each next lap, he reduced the gap to Schumacher. The decisive moment of the race was Renault's pit stop. Fernando returns to the track and coldly presses Michael. He pulls ahead and wins. Alonso confirms that he will not give up his title without a fight. At the Malaysian Grand Prix, Schumacher and Massa started the race outside the top 10. This was due to a change of engine on the Ferrari cars. Alonso faced a fuel problem in qualifying. He was forced to start from 7th place, but right at the start, he managed to make a phenomenal comeback to 3rd place.
What a beautiful start by the world champion!
The Red Baron also gradually gained ground. For both drivers, it was their strategies that made the difference. Alonso managed to pass Button and secure 2nd place. Schumacher was less fortunate. Unlike Massa, he made 2 stops and rejoined behind his teammate. The German finished 6th. Renault's second driver, Giancarlo Fisichella, was fast and became a proud winner in Malaysia. Perhaps the problem is the reliability of the Ferrari car. The next Australian Grand Prix will give us a completely different answer. The weekend started with bad luck for Schumacher. Due to unexpected rain in qualifying, Michael started the race from 10th place. And during the race, the German went too far off the track and crashed into the barriers.
Oh, is that Michael Schumacher? It is! Schumacher pushing enormously hard.
This meant an early end to his race. After the Australian Grand Prix, faith in Schumacher and Ferrari's success gradually faded, especially when Michael was 17 points behind Alonso. It was obvious that immediate changes were needed. If Michael really wanted to fight for the title, it was time to change the situation in the championship. For the San Marino race, Ferrari modernized the car. They improved the aerodynamic package, strengthened the engine, and redesigned the suspension. The changes were immediately noticeable in qualifying results. Schumacher took pole position. However, during the race, Alonso was constantly on Michael's tail. Ferrari had a plan for this. They deliberately provoked Fernando to make a pit stop. As soon as this happened, Schumacher started pushing and demonstrated several incredibly fast laps. Thanks to this, he retained the lead after his pit stop, and finally, Ferrari won a race. This tactic proved to be the key to success not only in Imola, but also at the next European Grand Prix. Michael was again ahead of Alonso after the last pit stop. He brought Scuderia its second victory in a row. Hardly anyone talks about it, but the next Spanish Grand Prix could change the entire championship, because Ferrari is constantly gaining form. A third consecutive victory would bring Schumacher closer to Alonso and deal a psychological blow. In response, Michelin has developed special tires for this race, with the help of which Fernando won his first home Grand Prix. Michael finished second and watched his championship slip away. But was it over? You know that Schumacher is ready to do anything to win, as it was, for example, in Adelaide 1994. Now, we can add Monaco 2006 to this list. In the final minutes of qualifying, Michael showed the best time. During his final run at the penultimate corner, Schumacher made a mistake and blocked the track. As a result, his competitors were unable to complete their final attempts. Now, Ferrari took pole. But doesn't it seem strange to you?
I just think it's cheap for the sport, you know, and somebody who's prepared to do cheap things like that should really consider if he's in the right sport, you know. Maybe he should do something. I think the time has come, he should do something else.
The teams requested an investigation. It lasted for 8 hours.
You have your enemies and you have the people that believe in you, and whoever wants to go one or the other direction, I will not be able to convince them anyway. I mean, that's what they want to think or not think. But
in the end, Schumacher was stripped of his pole position and started from last place. I think you can guess that in Monaco, this meant suicide. But not for Michael. To fight for points, Ferrari developed a unique strategy. Did it work? We'll talk about that later, because there was a fight between Alonso and Raikkonen in the race. Okay, Kimi's engine caught fire as usual. At that point, the cameraman showed a fan's favorite moment. After retiring, Raikkonen decided to relax on a yacht instead of analyzing his race in the paddock with his team. At the end of the race, everyone was happy. Michael made an incredible comeback, finishing 5th. Fernando celebrated another victory. Alonso increased his lead over Schumacher to 21 points. Will the Red Baron be able to catch up with Fernando? Alonso started an unprecedented series of 2 wins in rounds 8 and 9. The Spaniard increased his lead to 25 points. Looks like the championship could be over. Although at this stage, Michael was still hanging on, albeit barely. You see, after Ferrari's modernizations in Imola, Schumacher's fiasco in Monaco would be the only mistake that would deprive him of the podium. So, the progress was noticeable. It felt like Ferrari was about to explode. At the US Grand Prix, the fans realized that the championship was just beginning. So, what happened there? The difference in speed between Ferrari and Renault was impressive. Both red cars easily took the first row of the grid. Part of the success was also due to the Bridgestone tires. Thanks to them, the Scuderia had no problem making it a 1-2 victory. But this Grand Prix was a big disappointment for Montoya fans, because Juan Pablo announced his retirement from Formula One.
How do you feel about losing your teammate in the middle of a season?
It's nothing to do with me, sir.
He was the first of 3 rookie drivers to challenge Schumacher and Ferrari, a savage who reminded the character from the 80s and early 90s Formula One era. Fernando Alonso could only finish 5th, but the next Grand Prix will be home for Renault and Michelin. Will they be able to make a comeback? The sun hit the track during the French Grand Prix. Once again, Bridgestone tires proved to be the perfect choice. No wonder Ferrari took the top row of the starting grid. Massa defended Schumacher throughout the race. The only thing Fernando Alonso could do was take risks. During the second pit stop, the team refueled Fernando for the rest of the race. Would he have enough fuel? After Massa pitted for the 3rd time, Alonso easily overtook him and finished 2nd, having 0 chances to catch up to Schumacher. Michael reduced his advantage by 2 points. Stay tuned, we've come to the most interesting part. Schumacher was only the beginning of Renault's problems. After the race in France, the FIA joined the chat. As you remember, Renault's unique advantage was the mass damper. The R26 was actually built around this device. However, someone wanted to deprive Renault of this advantage. Perhaps Ferrari. No, it wasn't. McLaren proved that the mass damper is a moving aerodynamic device. But this is absurd. It has been in use for a year and a half, and only now has the FIA taken action and banned it. Maybe they wanted to keep the intrigue in the championship. We will never find it out, but one thing is certain. The FIA's decision was a big setback for Renault. At the German Grand Prix, they were left without podium places for the first time in the season. This was Schumacher's 3rd victory in a row. He reduced Alonso's lead in the championship to just 11 points. Renault faced a difficult task, namely to regain its previous performance. Otherwise, Schumacher would easily win the 8th title. The Renault team should not be underestimated. They knew how to deal with challenges. Last year, the French proved how quickly they can adapt their cars to new requirements. Could Renault be up to pace at the next Hungarian Grand Prix? The race offered great opportunities for both drivers, but already during qualifying, each of them received a 2-second penalty. Although the forecast called for warm and dry conditions, it rained early on Sunday morning. If Bridgestone prevailed in hot weather, Michelin had no equal in rainy weather. Alonso overtook Michael by a full lap halfway through the race. He was the leader without question. When Fernando entered the pits for his last stop, the car was refueled for the rest of the race. But misfortune struck Alonso once more.
He's off! Fernando Alonso Alonso is off. The World Championship leader has stopped.
His mechanics didn't mount the rear wheel properly. Are you also thinking about the ideal conditions for Schumacher? Not this time. He had an unlucky race, colliding with Fisichella.
De La Rosa made the pass. He goes deep. Schumacher resists. What's happened? What's happened? Is he through or isn't he?
And later on with Nick Heifeld. This led to a breakdown in Michael's suspension and meant an end to his race. None of the championship favorites scored points. At the Turkish Grand Prix, both Ferraris took the first row of the grid again. But don't be too hasty in thinking that's all. Schumacher started in second place. Fernando Alonso was right behind him. The race promised to be fierce. From the very beginning, Schumacher put up a fight. He broke away from the Spaniard by 5 seconds. However, the safety car changed the game. During that period, Ferrari brought both of the leading cars to the pits. Because of that, Schumacher was forced to wait for his teammate to be serviced. Fernando made use of this chance and moved up to second place. Michael was constantly pressuring Alonso.
Michael Schumacher. Alonso a little bit slow there. Out of turn 4, down the hill to 5. Surely Schumacher's going to get him. He's got him in his sights now on the run down to 7.
The fight quickly turned into a cat-and-mouse game. Felipe Massa won his first race in Formula 1. For Michael Schumacher, the race turned out to be a missed opportunity. This begs the question, why didn't Ferrari adopt a team strategy? After all, Schumacher has not been able to catch up with Alonso in the championship. The Red Baron was 12 points behind. Each race reduced his chances of winning the championship. Schumacher had to change the situation immediately. There was a perfect chance for this at Ferrari's home race in front of the Tifosi. Qualifying was exceptional from the start. The stewards sent Alonso from 5th to 10th place because of Massa's blockage. Fernando condemned this decision.
I don't consider anymore Formula 1 like a sport.
The Monza magic worked during the race.
Oh, who's that? It's Alonso. It's the word. Listen to the crowd.
For the first time in 2 years, Fernando had engine problems. Michael comfortably won the race and got his 90th victory. After the celebration, he said something that shocked absolutely everyone.
This is going to be my last Monza race I'm going to do. At the end of this year, I've decided together with the team that I'm going to retire from racing.
Although Schumacher did not deny the importance of the title fight because of his retirement. He wanted to end his career on a high note, and there were only 3 races left to beat Alonso. Would the Red Baron succeed in winning his 8th title? The Chinese Grand Prix was a rainy one. You can guess that the Michelin customers had a significant advantage. Not surprisingly, Fernando took pole. At this time, Schumacher did his best and got 6th place. Alonso was easily leading the race and had a 25-second advantage over Schumacher. Will everything end so easily in Formula 1? The situation changed dramatically when the Spaniard started having problems with his new front tires and lost his advantage. Schumacher and Fisichella overtook him.
Fernando's gap has been slashed. This could be the chance for Ferrari.
He was forced to take a pit stop, but when he came in, a disaster struck.
Another problem with the right rear wheel costs him time.
The mechanics failed to quickly fix the rear wheel. As a result, Alonso lost 20 seconds and his chances of winning the race. Once again, technical problems ruined Fernando's race. Finally, Michael caught up with Fernando Alonso on points. To be honest with you, all the fans wanted Schumacher to win. Ferrari and Michael were in great form. The psychological advantage was on the side of Scuderia. And that's not all. There was a symbolic moment with champagne on the podium. It emphasized the belief in Schumacher's victory. The fans became even more convinced of Schumacher's victory when both Ferraris took the front row of the grid at Suzuka. Massa was ahead, Schumacher second. Ferrari's management decided that there was no need to repeat past mistakes. Therefore, Felipe let Michael go ahead at the start. Everything looked good for Schumacher. With 16 laps remaining, for the first time in the last 6 years, the Ferrari engine burned out. Imagine how Schumacher felt at that moment. But this was only the beginning of the disappointment. Alonso took advantage of his pit stop strategy and got ahead of Massa. He passed the smoking Ferrari and could not believe it.
Second surprise, the biggest surprise of the race for sure.
The months-long rivalry changed in an hour and a half, and Schumacher's chances of success remained minimal.
As usual, I want to do well. I mean, as I told you, I really feel very different.
Therefore, the Red Baron claimed that he would fight to the last on the last stage in Brazil. If you watched the race live, you remember how eager everyone was for Schumacher to win. Millions of fans believed in a miracle. But during qualifying, the chances of winning decreased again because Schumacher encountered technical problems. Michael was forced to start 10th. Now Alonso had to finish 8th or higher to win the title. You can understand that it is almost impossible to lose the title. At the start of the race, Schumacher showed his refusal to give up. Michael instantly gained 4 positions and moved up to 6th place. Soon, Fisichella became his target.
Schumacher ran the outside of Fisichella. Fisichella's got to hang on to it. Schumacher will need to go left immediately.
Oh no!
Some contact, definitely, Martin. There was definitely a bit of contact with Fisichella.
Giancarlo hit Schumacher's wheel, making the car uncontrollable. Unfortunately, the chances for the 8th title were lost. Despite the pit stop, Michael did not want to give up. He continued to fight for the championship from 19th place. He managed to overtake Fisichella again, made an incredible maneuver past Raikkonen.
Don't collide, guys, please don't collide. Raikkonen gives him room. Schumacher is through. The crowd go bananas.
And in the end, finished 4th. Schumacher proved why he was considered the best. Although he failed to win the 8th title, it was an epic end to his career. After 16 seasons, the Schumacher era was over. It was symbolic that Michael decided to run his final lap in Monza. The Red Baron said goodbye to everyone and put an end to his impressive career.
It's going to be my last Monza race I'm going to do.
Can you describe Michael Schumacher in one word?
Talent.
A king.
But Schumacher won his first title in the tragic year of 1994, the year that ended the career of another legendary driver. What happened there? Click on the video to watch the most dramatic season in Formula One.